So dark. So scary. So spooky. So scary.
Since we're coming up on Halloween here, as well as the second year of Content Free Time, I thought it'd be cool to get a Halloween-themed video out this year. And what better thing to talk about at Halloween times than scary video games? But obviously, some things work better in scary games than others. Why is that? This is a list of what I personally think does work in a scary game, and what I think doesn't quite work. Darkness. This one is pretty straightforward. You can't have a horror game without darkness. It just doesn't work. If you don't have darkness, it eliminates all the suspense and the mystery that comes with not knowing your surroundings. In one of Gerard the Completionist's recent videos, he talked about how Resident Evil 5 lost all of its scariness it had over the previous games because of this. And he's completely right. I'd even go farther to say, look at the different segments in Half-Life 2. The dark ones are so much scarier than the day ones. What doesn't work? Getting the player lost because it's so dark. If it's so dark that you can't even tell where you're going or where you've been in a game, you're probably doing it wrong. Unless you're purposely getting them lost to advance the plot. For example, in I'm Scared, you can't tell where you're going for beans, but after wandering around for just a few seconds, you'll either find a door or run into Whiteface. But in Silent Hill, if you don't know exactly where to go, you can be stuck wandering around for an hour. Not only is that not scary, it's not even fun.
It is way too dark in here. I can't tell what's going on. Where am I? What? What?
Imminent threats at almost all times, but they can be avoided if you know what you're doing. Take Five Nights at Freddy's, for example. You know they're coming, but if you know what you're doing, you can avoid them. Most of the time. And when you can't, it's stupid. But up until that point, the tension just keeps building and building. It's fantastic. Putting the player up against some stupid, hard-to-take-down monster. The thing that's scary about these guys is that you can't take them on, and you know it. It can be cool and fun if you're having some epic fight at the end of the game, but up until that point, don't make us just unload a million clips into one of these little guys. Or take 100 snapshots. It's not fun, it's not scary. And I know that Left 4 Dead isn't really meant to be a horror game so much as it is a team shooter, but then again, when's the last time you've heard someone talk about this game? Not in a while, I'll bet. Imagine if it incorporated some of these good ideas from horror games. Then it might have had a more lasting impact. That's not to say that it was a bad game by any means, but I think it could have been better. Jump scares. If done right. I'm not talking some witch jumping into your face to kill you when you were expecting it anyway. I'm talking completely unexpected, horrifying creatures, out of nowhere. Like the first time you got caught by one of the animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's, running into a zombie in the gutters of Half-Life 2. Heck, even in the Final Fantasy 15 demo, there were goblins crawling out of the wall from out of nowhere that scared the crud out of me, and that wasn't even a horror game. The same monsters time after time after time. If you want to reuse a horror monster, you better make sure it's hidden most of the time, like by having its view obscured, or you make sure it's one cool, scary monster to look at. Like I said, the animatronics are cool the first time, but they did get old. Same thing with the zombies in Half-Life 2, or any other game with a bunch of zombies actually. The alien in Alien Isolation works because it's always just peeking around the corner. You usually never have to face it directly head on. The fetus in PT works because even though you have to keep coming back to it, it's absolutely hideous and just interesting to look at. Also, it could say or do different things, which leads me to my next point. Always keep them guessing. The reason PT is so incredible is because every single time you walk through that doorway, you have no idea what's going to happen. At least during your first playthrough. In games like Eternal Darkness, if you haven't already looked online and spoiled it for yourself, then you have no idea what's going to happen when your insanity meter goes up, and when it finally does, it's crazy cool. On the other hand, if you keep running into the same things time after time, it's not fun at all. It's also not fun if you don't know what you're supposed to do. These games need to have direction. These are supposed to be great horror games, not dumb puzzle games. If you want to include puzzles in your horror game, cool. Puzzles can be really fun, and even suspenseful if used right. But if your puzzle is impossible to solve without looking it up online, then you're doing it wrong. I'm looking at you, ending of PT. But as dumb as that ending of PT is, the beginning of it is incredible, and personally I think it could have been the opening to the best horror game of all time. With all the things it does right, the perfect amount of darkness, the way it keeps the player guessing but they still know exactly where to go, just down the hallway. The creepy imagery and jump scares used perfectly, the atmosphere and aesthetics created by it all. Man, I can't wait for Silent Hills! Wait, what?